I paid for my stepson's private school, sports, and college. Then one day, I overheard him say, "He's just mom's fool. My real dad's the one I'll thank at graduation." So I smiled and let him find out what real dad had actually done. Chapter 1. The Man in the Background. They say being a stepfather is a thankless job. I never expected a parade or medals, just a little respect. But even that, it seems, was too much to ask. My name is David, and I married Michelle when her son Tyler was just 6 years old. His biological father had walked out when he was 2, never paid child support, never called, never wrote, gone like vapor. But I stepped in literally and emotionally. I paid for everything: private school tuition, soccer tournaments, his braces, his first car, and now his full college tuition at an elite university. All while working 2 jobs and putting off things I wanted for myself. I did it because I loved Michelle, and I wanted Tyler to have the father figure I never did growing up. Was he grateful? Not always, but he was a kid, so I let it go. Michelle would say, "He's just moody," or "He's going through a phase." I believed her until the day I overheard something that shattered everything. It was a Thursday evening. I came home early from a client meeting. Wanted to surprise them with takeout and maybe catch the tail end of a movie night. The living room lights were off, but I heard voices from the patio. Tyler's voice deep now. He was 21, laughing with his friends. One sentence said, loud and proud, cracked something deep inside me. "David, oh please. He's just mom's fool. Always has been. My real dad's the one I'll thank at graduation. He's making a comeback, and I want him to walk me on stage, not that clown." There was laughter, and in that laughter, I heard it, the truth. Everything I sacrificed, everything I gave up, it meant nothing. I wasn't dad. I was the wallet, the convenience, the placeholder. I didn't say a word. I walked back to my car, takeout bag still warm in my hand, and sat there in the darkness, listening to the dull thud of betrayal, not just from Tyler, but from Michelle too. She had to know. She'd invited his biological father back into the picture without telling me. I didn't cry, I didn't rage, I smiled, because from that moment, a plan started forming, one that would show them exactly who the fool really was. Chapter 2. The strings I quietly pulled. For years, they thought I was just generous, just naive. But behind that quiet, dependable smile, I had structured everything with precision. I wasn't just paying for things. I was controlling the back end, and that meant power. Michelle didn't know, and Tyler certainly never cared to ask. But the house, it was in my name fully. The school payments came through my trust account, not joint funds. Even Tyler's college tuition structured as a conditional educational grant, with termination clauses. When I married Michelle, I loved her deeply, but I wasn't stupid. I'd seen marriages implode. I had my lawyer write up a post-nuptial agreement when Tyler turned 10. She signed without reading, "You're being dramatic." She laughed at the time. That document would soon become the sword and shield I needed, the comeback dad reveal. A few days after I overheard Tyler's little monologue, I decided to investigate the so-called real dad. His name was Glenn, no job, no real address, just a flashy smile, a record of unpaid child support, and a mountain of debt. He'd recently been trying to start a crypto investment firm, a scam by the look of it. But I found something better. He'd used Michelle's address on his loan applications. That meant she was tangled in something serious. So I paid a private investigator. For $300, I got access to his arrest records, 2 recent ones, fraud and DUI, his fake business listings, audio clips of him bad-mouthing Michelle after she refused to co-sign his loan. I packaged it all neatly into a manila envelope and tucked it away for graduation day. The quiet withdrawals begin. I didn't confront Michelle. I didn't yell or rage. I just began to disentangle myself. I moved money out of our joint account into a separate LLC trust. I notified the private school that the scholarship grant would end the following semester. Citing breach of conduct, I sent a notice to the university's finance office revoking the tuition disbursement for next year. I paused the credit card that Michelle had access to and replaced it with one in my name only, she noticed, of course. But when she asked, I just said, "There have been some changes in the market. I need to be cautious." She nodded, still thinking I was her fool. The clock ticks. Graduation was 2 months away. Tyler, oblivious, kept posting about how excited he was for real dad to walk him on stage. He even posted a selfie with Glenn, captioned, "The man who's always been there in spirit, can't wait to honor you at graduation, Dad." I bookmarked it. Then I started preparing the final act, one that would be loud, public, and completely deserved. Chapter 3, Graduation Day. A lesson in applause and exposure. The sun was bright that morning, too bright. It was the kind of day people would remember, not for the ceremony, but for what was about to unfold. Tyler stood tall in his cap and gown, bouncing on his heels with the confidence only the obliviously privileged have. Michelle wore a cream dress and sunglasses, phone in hand, capturing every second for her Facebook feed. And Glenn, he was already tipsy before the event began, grinning like he'd won the lottery. He hadn't. The walk and the switch. As the procession began, I stepped back from the main aisle. I had requested not to walk Tyler across the stage. Let real Dad do it, I told the school. They agreed. After all, the man wanted this. Tyler's name was called. Cheers erupted. Glenn, slurring slightly, began walking him toward the podium, trying to wave like a pageant queen. But just before they reached the dean, the announcer said into the microphone, "This degree is made possible thanks to the generosity of his legal guardian and sponsor, Mr. Daniel Reeves." The crowd paused, a few clapped politely, then came the real moment, the envelope. As they stepped down from the stage, an usher handed Tyler a small gift bag. Not from me directly. Inside it were a framed photo of Glenn, his mugshot, a printed transcript of his recent fraud case filing, a certified letter from the university's bursar confirming Tyler's enrollment had been revoked due to failure of financial sponsor to renew educational support. And finally, a note that read, "The man you honor today was arrested 3 nights ago for defrauding a senior citizen. He used your name on fake loan applications, and your mother knew the fallout begins." Tyler's face turned from cocky to confused to ashen. He looked around wildly, clutching the papers, mouth thing. "What is this?" Michelle rushed over, snatched the envelope. Her hands trembled as she read. Then Glenn's phone buzzed. The police were already outside. Remember the investigator? I shared Glenn's location with the evidence, as Glenn was escorted away in cuffs. He screamed at Michelle, "You said it was fine. You said your husband wouldn't find out." The entire graduation hall went silent. People whispered. Phones came out. And just like that, their perfect day turned into a public scandal. My parting gift. I stood quietly in the back, watching it unfold. No anger, no shouting, just closure. Before I left, I dropped a final folder off with the university president. It contained proof that Tyler had plagiarized 2-term papers, something I had discovered while helping him edit over the years. His degree was nullified 2 weeks later. Chapter 4, The Confrontation and the Cold Truth. It didn't take long for Michelle to show up at my doorstep. Her perfect hair was a mess, her mascara streaked, and her voice was trembling between rage and desperation. She slammed her hands on the porch railing and shouted, "What the hell did you do, David? You humiliated us in front of everyone." I didn't move. I just stood there calm, collected, like a man who'd already buried every piece of emotion he had left for her. "Us?" I asked quietly. "You mean the people who laughed at me behind my back? Or the son who called me a fool while I was paying his way through life?" She flinched, but I continued. "You let Glenn worm his way back into your life. You let him poison Tyler against me. You thought I didn't notice when money started disappearing from the joint account, when you wired $5,000 to his business." Her lips parted, shocked I knew, but she still tried to fight back. "He's Tyler's father. He deserved to be part of." I cut her off. "No, a father shows up when it's hard. He doesn't reappear when there's a stage and a camera waiting. The collapse." She tried to step closer, voice cracking. "You didn't have to ruin Tyler's life. He's just a kid." I almost laughed. "A 21-year-old man who sneers at the person who raised him." "No, Michelle, he's not a kid. He's a mirror of what you raised." Then I handed her a thin envelope, the final piece. Inside were the post-nuptial agreement she'd signed years ago, giving me sole ownership of our home and all marital assets in the event of deceit or financial misconduct. Copies of Glenn's signed confessions from his interrogation, admitting that she helped him access my financial information, and a foreclosure notice for her sister's house, the one she'd co-signed without my income backing it. It was already collapsing. Her knees buckled as she whispered, You planned this." I finally looked her in the eye and said, "No, Michelle, you did. You just never realized actions have receipts, and I keep mine organized." The realization. For a long moment, she stood there, the confident, controlling woman I once knew, now reduced to trembling silence. "You were never supposed to get hurt like this," she whispered. "I didn't," I replied softly. "I got free, and then I shut the door. But that wasn't the end." A week later, I got a letter, not from Michelle, but from Tyler. 3 short lines. "I didn't understand what you did for me until now. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want to be like you someday." For the first time in months, I smiled, not out of revenge, but release. Final chapter, epilogue, the man they never really knew. A new life in silence. 6 months passed, the house was quiet, not in a lonely way, but in a healing one. The walls, once echoing with unspoken resentment and fake laughter, now held peace. I'd remodeled the guest room into a small art studio. Turns out painting at sunrise is better therapy than any clinic could offer. I didn't move out, I didn't run, I reclaimed Michelle's fall, public and personal. Michelle tried to bounce back, but secrets have a way of surfacing, especially when your ex-husband happens to have legally recorded everything. The financial fraud with Glenn was reported anonymously to the ethics board. She was quietly asked to step down from the non-profit board she bragged about for years. And Glenn, he vanished. Word was, he'd skipped town after being threatened by a few investors from his shady ventures. Michelle filed for bankruptcy, last I heard. She was renting a room in a shared flat with 3 strangers. The kind of people she once called beneath her. Tyler, the boy who finally grew up. Tyler did reach out again. I didn't respond at first. I needed to know his words weren't just guilt-soaked apologies. One day, a hand-delivered envelope arrived at my door. Inside was a letter handwritten. I used to think strength meant money, status, admiration. But I watched everything crumble when the man I disrespected. You walked away with peace while the rest of us burned. I got a part-time job, paying for night classes. One day I hope I can earn the right to sit with you and ask how you became the man I always needed. That day I cried, not for what I lost, but for what I might still salvage. The lesson that ended it all. Revenge isn't always fire and fury. Sometimes it's quiet, strategic, icy cold. Sometimes the most powerful revenge is simply removing yourself from someone's life and watching them struggle without the man they thought was disposable. I never wanted to destroy Michelle or Tyler. I just wanted them to understand what they called foolishness was actually love, sacrifice, and patience. And what they mistook for weakness was the kind of strength they never learned to respect until it was gone. One final words for the audience. Some betrayals cut deep, but healing doesn't come from shouting louder. It comes from rising silently and letting your actions echo louder than any insult ever could. If this story moved you, share it. Not just as a tale of revenge, but as a reminder, being kind is never weakness. And undervaluing good people is always the costliest mistake. Was this revenge perfectly justified, or should the storm have raged harder? Drop your verdict below. I read every single one. Hit like if you crave justice and share this story with someone who needs its fire. Subscribe to Walter's Story, because here betrayals don't sleep. They hunt their owners. Every shadow hides a reckoning. Every mask breaks and every betrayal is answered. Stay sharp, stay unbroken.